Betsy DeVos restores due process and the Dems freak out. Because of course they do. The accused will now have the presumption of innocence and the right to have an attorney cross-examine witnesses and see the evidence against him. All extremely basic fucking shit that should have been there from the start. But they were allowed to get away with it because under Obama, I mean, he was actually pushing this shit. This week, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos formally announced the new Title IX rules governing sexual misconduct cases in school. Yeah, I think at this point they realized that men are skipping college and they were freaking the fuck out. And they thought, you know what? Maybe we're going to have to actually stop treating them like shit to get them to come back, but it might be too late. It's difficult to understand why instances of alleged criminal sexual misconduct shouldn't be forwarded and adjudicated by the proper authorities, where both the victim and the accused are subjected, like all of us, to a system that determines truth, guilt, and punishment. A system that's horribly broken and is wrong quite a lot of times, but, well, it's the best we got right now, I guess. I mean, I would actually say we need to bring back dueling. It's also difficult to understand why schools, which aren't properly equipped to conduct criminal investigations, much less fair trials, should be held responsible for the actions of all their students, even when they are off campus. Well, that's what happens when you live in a very litigious society, they say. Here in the West, we have career plaintiffs. We have people who make a living just constantly suing people. This should not be possible. Now, that's exactly the type of person that should be thrown in jail for life right there. Now, this, however, is the reality of Title IX. At the very least, when the state should ensure that students are afforded the same impartiality, norms, and protections that every one of us expects in the real world. Yet with current year -9, during Obama, the Dear Colleague letter, the Obama administration compelled schools to conduct sexual misconduct inquiries as if they were show trials. No, well, it's not as if they were show trials. They are show trials, yes. Stripping students of the ability to face their accuser or to call witnesses or to see evidence against them. Yeah, good luck defending yourself when you can't even do that. DeVos is now returning some sanity to the handling of such cases. For this, Catherine E. Lehman, a chairwoman of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, accused her of taking us back to the bad old days when it was permissible to rape and sexually harass students with impunity. So look at this. This is how they think of us, by the way. The mere fact that we say, oh, you know, we have due process for a reason, let's use it. They view that as taking us back to the bad old days. No, you know what the bad old days were? The Salem witch trials, where you could get psychopaths just pointing at random people and saying, that guy's a witch. And then you're dead. Your life's over. That's the bad old days that you fucking idiots have brought us back to with what the Title IX rules used to be. All DeVos is doing is fixing it. The only people who are mad at this change are professional victims, career plaintiffs, like I was just talking about. Those are the only people who stand to lose from this. And, of course, false accusers. This is appalling hyperbole. It's all the more reprehensible because it comes from the chairwoman of an agency created and charged with ensuring that the constitutional rights of all Americans be protected equally. Yeah, we all know that men are second-class citizens, though. So, as my colleague Charles Cook points out, it's unclear why Lehman believes that this specific crime and not others should be exempted from age-old expectations of due process. Well, because you can't expect, when most accusations are false, it looks bad for your agenda and your fucking professional victim racket. So they all have to be assumed to be true, right? Makes perfect sense. After all, we can't have people murdering or carjacking or stealing with impunity, so why not also abolish the Fifth Amendment? If the only thing achieved by protections for the accused is incentivizing more criminality, then why do we have any protections at all? That's right. Yeah, if you're accused of something, let's just assume you're guilty. And we'll see how long these people like it when you accuse them of something. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself again. That's going to be the next one. It would certainly be helpful if Democrats who are denouncing DeVos's campus sexual assault policy would explain which rules they object to and why. And that would assume that they thought about anything, but they don't. They operate 100% on emotion. And they just know that they were told that this is racist and sexist in some way. So they feel rage. And that's how they react. Are they opposed to schools allowing hearings in which lawyers and advocates from both sides can ask questions? Are they opposed to the accused having access to evidence related to the charges filed against them, sans medical records? The Obama guidelines allow accusers to appeal not guilty verdicts, but did not guarantee the same right for the accused. Rather, it permitted penalties to be handed out before the investigations were even conducted. And those who conducted the investigation, often a single untrained employee, were empowered to be both the judge and the jury. Although they quickly got disciplined if they didn't come to the correct conclusion. Adjudicators will now be trained, and the training material says they will be published on the school's website to offer transparency, or that they use. Yeah, that's good. The new rules, and there are 2,033 pages of them, also expand on protections for victims by asking schools to investigate allegations of stalking, domestic violence, and dating violence. Now, that I think is bullshit, by the way, because a lot of these are real crimes. So fuck asking the school to invest. This isn't the school's responsibility. The school's only responsibility should be to report this to the cops, and then the cops can take over from there. In my opinion, the school should have nothing to do with this shit. If something happens that is a legit fucking crime, it needs to be handled by the cops, not by the fucking school. Your gender studies professor should have no say in this. But I guess I'm fucking crazy for saying that. The new rules also roll back broadsides against free speech instituted by the Obama administration, which forced schools to investigate sexual-themed speech that offended students. Yeah, police people's fifis. That's right. As with most things on campus these days, the process was hijacked by brittle and perpetually offended regressive students. That's right. DeVos does not institute a clear and convincing evidentiary standard over the less rigorous preponderance of evidence standards. Indeed, she lets schools choose to live by either standard so long as they apply it equally. Ooh. Yeah, and this is actually a funny case, too, that when it comes to Title IX, whoever is the first to file an accusation gets preferential treatment. And this does sometimes even apply to men. There was a story from, I think it was last year, where a man, he woke up after a drunken party one night and he got word that the woman he slept with was going to charge him with sexual assault and all that. So he basically raced her to the Title IX office and reported her first because they were both drunk, right? So technically they each took advantage of each other. It was just a matter of who reports it first. And he got there first, so she was on the receiving end of all the investigations. That was fucking hilarious. Now, we shouldn't be under the impression that Americans will be given a fair reading of the new rules either. The Washington Compost, for example, claims that DeVos's guidelines will give universities and colleges a clear but controversial roadmap for handling emotionally charged conflicts that often pit one student against another. Once again, the college should have nothing to do with this. If a serious crime like rape is being alleged, then it needs to be handled by the cops. This is how you know this is bullshit. Because they claim rape, and then they never report it to the cops. They just let the school handle it and let's just kick the guy out of school for a year. If a real rape occurred, you'd want way more than that. You'd want to also make sure that this guy is not on the streets doing this to other women still. Now, this should be all the evidence you need that these accusations are false. If they specifically don't want the cops to handle it, but just go straight to the school and social media. Yeah, and we all know the reason why they don't report it to the cops, though, because the cops actually fucking investigate. And false accusers don't want to be investigated for obvious reasons. Have you noticed that conservative positions and not very long ago due process was a bailiwick of liberal groups such as the ACLU as well, are almost always controversial? Guess what? Everything in politics is controversial, or we wouldn't be talking about it. And yes, sexual assault accusations tend to be emotional events that pit one student against another. The insinuation of this kind of editorializing shoved into a story that's presented as news is that emotional conflicts deserve a special set of rules. Oh, some of us would argue that emotional conflict especially benefit from dispassionate process. No, actually, I would agree. Emotional conflict does deserve a special set of rules. If you show up to the court and you present no evidence, you have only appeals to emotion, then you instantly lose by default and are thrown in jail. That is the special set of rules I would do. That would solve so many problems. Same thing with voting, too. They should do a test before they let people vote to see how easy they are to emotionally manipulate. And people who are easy to emotionally manipulate should not be allowed to vote because they're only voting for whoever manipulated them the best. That's it. Here's the framing offered by Nothing But Crap News. Now, under the reworked federal rules, the alleged student perpetrators will have the added protections, including the presumption that they are innocent throughout the disciplinary process and the right to be provided all evidence collected against them. And it's funny how they may be saying that as if it's a bad thing. Yeah. There is no legitimate concept of justice in which the presumption of innocence is an added protection. Agreed? It is the foundational protection. The Obama administration deprived students of it, and the Trump administration reinstated it. That's the story. This is another example of too little, too late, though, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if male students, if men still refuse to go back to college, though. I mean, it's bad enough. If I was signing up to college and I saw that one of the mandatory classes was white privilege or something like that, I'd just instantly be like, oh, I cancel my enrollment. I'm done. Yep, I'm done. Give me my money back. I'm not coming here. And not wasting my time on this shit. Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.